see you guys in the dark.
If anyone is interested, I do have another YouTube channel that I am working on, and the link in the description will be down below. I am doing memes, basically. It's hard to explain, but I will be narrating memes in this second channel. I hope you guys enjoy, and if you are interested, look in the link for the description and click the link and check it out. I would occasionally ask my mother if she had any real scary stories that she would share with me. I thrive off of that stuff. She chose not to mention this one until I was old enough to hear it. This story takes place in Canada during the late 60s, when my now deceased grandmother was in her early 30s. She decided to drive to our town's convenience store after dark to pick up a couple of things. She had finally just managed to get her 4 children to sleep, left my grandfather to take over while she hopped in the car and made that 10-minute drive. Back then, the road from their house to the store had very few neighbors. It was mostly just woods on the other side of the 2 lanes. After buying a couple of things that she needed, she left the store, jumped back into her car, pulled out onto the road for her route home. A few moments later, during the drive, she hears sounds like newspaper rustling in the back seat of the car. Startled, she checks her rearview mirror to find out the cause of it. Instead of seeing the usual empty road or a set of headlights reflecting back, it was a man's face in the back seat. Scared to death, she instantly hit the brakes, just hard enough to shock this man, probably giving him some whiplash. Jumped out of her car, she began screaming loud enough for the people near the store who could hopefully hear her. Having this man's plan foiled, whatever it may be, took this opportunity to escape and ran into the woods, out of sight. After getting back to the store and calling the police, my grandmother found a cloth covered in chloroform in the back seat. Just a note, luckily a couple from a house nearby heard my grandmother's screams, helped calm her down, and then took her home. My grandfather said that she was unable to speak for hours, only able to muster up the necessary details for the police, who were the ones who detected that it was chloroform on the cloth. Poor thing didn't drive for 6 months after this incident. The man was never caught, though. I once had this boyfriend. He seemed like a great guy, but let me tell you, he was a monster. A complete and utter monster. A vile piece of shit at that. I hate myself for ever getting involved with this guy. Anyways, this is how the story goes. I was hanging outside of the bowling alley one night, as I did every weekend. There was a petite, shy girl with a thin figure and long blonde hair. I was shy and quite reserved. I was chilling with my friends when this super cute guy with long black hair, a goatee, and a leather jacket pulled up on his dirt bike. His name was Joey. All of the girls loved Joey. Joey noticed me, and he asked me out. Of course, I said yes. Joey was 19 years old at the time, and I was 15. We hit it off very quickly, and he was super sweet. As the months went on, he moved in with me and my parents, and we were engaged. Suddenly, Joey's behavior had changed. Joey started smoking meth, started staying out all night long, and started stealing things. The cops were always at the house. He got arrested multiple times. My parents got really fed up with Joey's shit and told him to get the fuck out of the house. A few weeks go by, and we noticed that we haven't been getting our mail. My parents called the post office, asked what the problem was. They told my parents that the mail had been delivered. Suddenly, my father got a notification on his phone that his credit score has dropped from 800-something to 0. Joey was arrested a few weeks later, and apparently Joey had been using the deep web to steal my father's credit card information. He'd also stolen 10 other people's credit card info and was stealing the information online for thousands of dollars to the highest bidder. I had no idea that Joey even knew how to do that shit. Joey was arrested and charged with larceny, grand theft, identity theft, and several other charges. Joey got 35 years in prison. Apparently, Joey was part of a racketeering gang that socialized in mail theft and credit card theft, and also sold meth and prescription pills. They did all this online from one of the guy's grandmother's basements and ripped off hundreds of people. Joey had apparently gotten involved with some people shortly after his cousin Ron had gotten out of prison for beating the fuck out of his girlfriend. John was a meth addict and a two-bit criminal until him and Joey met Douglas, a computer genius and former intelligence officer who was fired and lost his badge forever due to his involvement in an illegal gambling ring back in 1996. They used the web browser Tor and set up very powerful VPNs. Very complicated and sophisticated shit that I'm just way too stupid to ever understand. Douglas wanted to become a millionaire and figured that if he ripped off enough people, he'd be able to start his own business and generate more income. From what I heard, Joey and Ron made one tiny mistake, and the FBI was able to track them and shut down the whole operation. Ron was murdered in prison because apparently he had a side business, and the prisoners had found out about it. I won't get into detail about Ron's side business, but let's just say that it involves some really sick shit. Yeah, so that's my deep web story. I've never gone to the deep web, but I've seen the havoc that it can wreak on people's lives. My father was able to rebuild his credit, and Joey's parents were too embarrassed by Joey's actions and helped repay the thousands of dollars that Joey had stolen from multiple people, including my father. This happened a little while ago, so I'm still playing it over and over in my head. I thought this would be a good place to share. I'm a pretty predictable person, with a predictable schedule. I'm not really sure if it was a random occurrence, or if someone knew my nightly routine. I'm a 30-year-old woman. My husband gets up for work hours before me, so he goes to bed before I do. I usually just go to bed a few hours after he does, around the same time every night. I turn off the lights and TV in my living room. I go to take the dog out back to let her out. The door leads to a large deck. Off on the right of the deck is a few steps down, a small path to the gate, which we always keep chained and locked up. Every night before opening up that door, I peek out of my window right next to it without disturbing the blinds. I flip on the deck light. I never expect anyone or anything to be there. We've never had a single problem with people trespassing or trying to break in. That's just something that I do every night. Kind of like peeking behind the shower curtain before I pee. I know no one is back there, but if I don't go check it out, then that's going to be the one time that there might be someone hiding. I watch a ton of horror movies, and it's pitch black outside at night where I live. So when this happened, I was getting ready for bed, went to the back door with the dog, slowly following behind, peeked out of my window. I flipped on that light. My heart jumped into my throat when I saw a skinny, dirty guy that was probably in his 20s or 30s, standing off on the side of the door, facing it. I see him raise his arm up, hold up a screwdriver above his head as soon as the light went on, preparing for someone to open up that door. I screamed at my husband to get up and get the gun as loudly as I could, which startled this guy. He jumped over the rail of the deck, even though he was right next to the stairs, and then he ran. My husband went out of the bedroom door with the gun. He called the police. They showed up within 10 minutes. They drove around trying to find the guy, but they couldn't find him. The guy broke the lock on our gate just to get in. He also pried open the back screen door, which we always keep locked as well. If I would have opened up the door without looking out first, I just might be dead. I don't know if I had just caught him breaking in, or if he was waiting for me to open up the door like I do every single night. Either way, I was terrified. My parents are buying us outdoor security cameras for an early birthday present for my husband. When I was in middle school, I would like to play in the woods behind my parents' house. Not far down from the road was a trailer park that was notorious for meth and drug dealing. One day I was building forts like the typical 13-year-old boy, when suddenly this guy pops out of nowhere. He was carrying an AR and asked me what the hell I was doing. Luckily, him and I both knew each other because he went to school with my older sister, and the three of us rode the same bus, but we weren't friends in the least bit. This kid, who was probably 18 years old, starts questioning what I've been doing and where I've been. I just told him that I was playing forts and shit. He takes the AR and fires off a few rounds in the middle of me explaining what I'm doing. He went on to threaten me, telling me how easy it would be for him to shoot me and how no one would ever know. He finished by saying some bullshit about how he liked me, and he didn't want to hurt me one bit. He told me that if I wanted to keep playing in those woods, that I should never ever go past this certain point, or else he wouldn't hesitate to shoot me. I quickly left, ran back to my parents' house. The way he was talking, I knew that he was growing pot out in the woods. I never told a single person about this encounter, not even my parents. Now I wish I had called the cops and given them my story, had that bastard put in jail. But the dude is serving life in prison now, so he got what was coming to him in the end. In my hometown, there's a movie theater next to the highway. I was walking on the bridge. A guy told me, "Will you help me? Please help me. My sister is lost near this movie theater." He had braces, looked like he was probably 19 or 20. He was around 6 feet tall, definitely a lot larger than me. I was around 19 at this time. He was pointing to the back parking lot of the theater that had no cars. I thought for a moment about helping him, but he had this bugged out wild look in his eyes. My gut told me not to do it. I said I'm sorry, but I have to catch the bus. He then followed me, saying, "Let me look up your dress." I told him to screw off. The guy seemed to love me getting angry, and then he sped away. Last year, right around the weekend of Halloween, I was late to show up to a friend's party. I had a dinner to go to across town. When I left, it was probably around 9 p.m. I had an hour drive ahead of me. But if I took a shortcut into a not-so-safe part of town, I would save probably about 30 minutes. That was a big mistake. As I'm waiting at a red light in the sketchiest part of town, I look over to the sidewalk. I see 3 men dressed as the Purge heading towards my vehicle. I look around and see that there are no other cars, no pedestrians, nothing around. These guys start coming over to me faster now, all of them carrying some kind of weapon. One had a baseball bat, one a crowbar, and I think the other one was carrying an axe. Whether they were just playing a prank or not, it was still the scariest experience of my life, especially because right before the light had turned green, they approached my window. One of them even tried to pull on my passenger side handle right before I sped off. After that had happened, I went into a parking lot that I knew was safe, and I sat there and calmed myself down. I definitely won't be doing that ever again.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos, and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.